All right, let's get started. Well, welcome. Thank you for your time, Commissioner Conway. My name is Karam Ahmad. I'm a director at Colorado Health Institute. I lead our Acclimate Colorado work, which is our body of environment, climate, and health work. Been at CHI for 7 years, sort of building out our climate and health work across local, county, state, and private industry, sort of different kinds of projects. I'm joined by my colleague, Emily. You want to quickly introduce yourself, Emily?
Yeah, thanks, Karam. I'm Emily Santich. I'm a research and policy analyst at CHI. I've been at CHI for about 3 years, and I support a lot of work for Acclimate Colorado initiative, which really looks at the intersection between climate and health. And I also serve on the national network of public health institutes, environmental health, and climate. So great to be with you today.
And then before we dive into a little bit of background and some questions, Commissioner Conway, would you like to introduce yourself just really quick?
Sure. Mike Conway, insurance commissioner for Colorado. Been in this gig for about 7 years now.
Awesome. So I want to start with a little bit of background on sort of climate, health, and our work at CHI and our partnership with the Division of Insurance this last couple of years. So at CHI, we seek to really understand that intersection between climate, natural disasters, and health, so we can really promote healthy communities across Colorado. Our communities are facing the impacts of changing climate, more frequent wildfires, drought, extreme heat, a number of other issues, which have implications on both our physical and of course our mental health. We know that creating communities that are really resilient to our changing climate, uh, that is, they can prepare for, they can respond to more frequent natural disasters is essential, which is why we want to have this conversation today. Having access to safe and affordable housing, we also know, is key to building really resilient communities in the face of more frequent wildfires and extreme heat. And as we think about exposures to things like wildfire risk and floods and things like that, uh, we know that the current insurance market has really affected availability and affordability across the nation. And in Colorado and some other Western states, we're really seeing that more homeowners are facing cost and coverage challenges in the face of more wildfires and natural disasters. So this last couple of years, we've worked on this project with the Colorado Division of Insurance, which of course regulates homeowners insurance industry in Colorado and provides consumer services to really better understand that connection between wildfires, our homes, our health. And today we're here, of course, with Colorado's insurance commissioner, Michael Conway, to explore these topics at that intersection of wildfire, insurance, and the communities we have in Colorado. So Emily's going to get us started with a pretty high level question.
Yeah, thanks, Karam, for that background. Commissioner, can you start by telling us what an insurance commissioner does?
Uh, that's a good question. It changes every day. It's really kind of dealing with whatever the particular issue are, or particular issues are for the day in hand. For example, this morning I was out talking with a group of mortgage lenders about the homeowners insurance market and the challenges in the homeowners insurance market. But earlier this week, I was having conversations with folks about health insurance and the challenges in our health insurance market. Tomorrow, I'll probably be talking about auto insurance. It really does. It kind of it ebbs and flows, but we at the division, we do everything kind of soup to nuts from the regulation of the insurance sector. So we regulate insurance agents, the licensing of agents, and then their behavior after they are licensed. We obviously license insurance companies too, and we make sure that the insurance companies and the insurance agents are complying with the laws of the state of Colorado, the laws and the regulations of the state of Colorado. And we also, I think, over the last 7 or 8 years, we've really tried to step up our involvement in the policy of that kind of impacting the insurance sector in Colorado too. That wasn't always the case for the division. It used to be the case that we took a little bit more of a passive approach to policy and really just kind of offered our expertise when folks would bring policy ideas to us. But we've kind of tried to take a next step in that evolution, and we really have been much more involved over, like I said, the last 7 years in that policy development itself.
Great, thank you.
So Colorado, of course, is no stranger to wildfires. I think I got a couple of those Apple notifications that it's a red flag day. Um, Wildfires, hail, other hazards like flooding in some communities. How would you describe kind of that impact of natural hazards, climate hazards on insurance availability and affordability?
So it's a challenge in Colorado right now. It's a challenge that we saw coming 2, maybe 3 years ago, and
Mhm.
we've been trying to take steps to be prepared for that challenge. So we've got a FAIR plan, which is an insurer of last resort, passed during the 2023 session, and we're in the midst of getting that FAIR plan stood up. And for folks to really the best way to think about that is that we're standing up a new insurance company. But it's those two natural disasters that you touched on, Crom. It's wildfire, but it's hail too. And hail, it's folks don't realize this, but hail is the much bigger driver of losses in Colorado than wildfire. Hail in any given year, on average, is causing more damage in Colorado than and exponentially more damage in Colorado than wildfire does. For example, the hailstorm that hit Central Park earlier this summer.
Mhm.
It was going to turn out to be a hailstorm that cost the state, that cost policyholders something north of $1 billion. It might get close to $2 billion, and that's
Wow.
B with a B, not million. To give folks kind of a frame of reference, the Marshall Fire it's going to end up being about a $2 billion fire, from a loss perspective, but a significant portion of those losses come from businesses, come from the commercial market. When you narrow it down to just the single family homes that were lost and the cost of that, it is about $1 billion. It was about $1 billion loss. So that one hailstorm that came through and took maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours earlier this summer cost about the same from a single family home perspective as the Marshall Fire did. And we have those types of hailstorms come through Colorado on a growing basis. It's not necessarily the case that we're seeing more hailstorms, but the hail that is coming through is bigger. So the storms themselves are more severe. So we've got to figure out how to address the hail problem that we have in the state. So we're having some active conversations about that. On the wildfire front it really is causing more than an affordability challenge. Hail's driving our affordability challenges. Wildfire does drive some portion of the affordability challenge in some parts of the state, but it is really driving the availability challenges that we have in certain little pockets of the state. So we have to find ways to address that as well. And those issues are somewhat separate. There are overlaps, of course, but finding the solutions for those, I think, are going to be a little bit different.
Commissioner, how would you describe the current state of homeowners insurance availability and affordability in Colorado? And how does this compare to other states? You touched on this a little bit with the impact of hail and the impact of wildfire, but can you kind of give us a sense of where Colorado is currently?
Yeah. So let me start with insurance companies themselves. So insurance companies in the homeowner space in Colorado, in 8 of the last 11 years have lost money. So they've paid out more in claims than they've brought in. And in some of those years, they paid out a lot more in claims than they've brought in. So just to give another example on the hail front, 2023 last year is going to end up being a terrible year for homeowners insurance companies. But that we didn't have any wildfires last year, any wildfires of any magnitude. It was all driven by hail loss. So the state of the market is that we have affordability challenges, and we have affordability challenges mainly being driven by hail, but then we do have those problems on the availability front because of wildfire. So the conversation, I think, is going to naturally be that we have to figure out when we're talking about hail and hail losses, it's roofs. So we have to figure out ways, and the homeowners front, it's about roofs. We have to figure out ways to help people fortify their roofs, so make them a little bit more hail resistant. When it comes to wildfire, and dealing with the issues that we're seeing in the wildfire market, we got to find ways to encourage insurance companies to write in more parts of the state. And I think we can probably do that in a variety of ways. But then we also have to deal with the challenges that the modeling companies, the modeling software are really kind of building into that market. What I mean by that, so insurance companies are all most of them, if not all of them, are using third-party modeling companies to really forecast the wildfire risk that is in the state. Those models, they vary in, it's the best way to say this. They vary in probably how accurate I think they are. Let me say it that way. And they absolutely vary in the ability and how well they are building in the mitigation that communities are doing and that the state is doing as well, and to some degree that individual property owners are doing. So we've got to build that capacity out. The good news on that front, and getting to kind of to the core of your question about how we compare to other states, Emily, is that for the states in the western half of the country, they're all dealing with that same issue on the wildfire front. So I think we'll have the ability to act collectively. I hope that we'll have the ability to act collectively and or learn from different things that different states are attempting to start to deal with the challenges in their wildfire market. We are, when you going back to hail, when you look at the number, when you look at the ranking of states that have the most hail exposure, we're number 2. We're number 2 right behind Texas. So that's not a good thing. We don't want to be high up on that list, but we can't change the fact that we're going to be high up on that list, right? That's going to be a longer term conversation about how we deal with how we kind of stop the climate impacts that are happening in the country as a whole. But what we can do is we can adapt to that. And we can adapt to the fact that we have those challenges in our markets, and we can find ways to alleviate the pressure that those are causing in our homeowners insurance market.
So you alluded to the FAIR Plan a little bit as I think you said, an insurance product of last resort. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of the development of Colorado's FAIR Plan? What is it? What impact will it have on folks that are seeking that kind of product of last resort? And then tied with that, sort of in addition to the FAIR Plan, what are some of the other sort of ideas that the division, what are some of the other approaches that the division is really thinking through to improving homeowners insurance availability and affordability?
Yeah, so the FAIR Plan, like we talked about, it is an insurer of last resort. So the easiest and best way to think about it is if you can't get insurance coverage from the State Farms, from the Allstates, from the Liberty Mutuals, those big insurance companies that people recognize, you'll have the ability, once the FAIR Plan launches, gets its products up and running, to have the ability to go out and find homeowners insurance coverage through the FAIR Plan. The development of that really was, we started looking back in 2020, 2021, before the Marshall Fire, at just kind of the state of our market. And we ended up performing a study that we released back in 2022, beginning of 2023, that looked at where the market was in Colorado, where the homeowners market was in particular. And what the study found was that we had relatively, if not very robust coverage at that point. But what we were also seeing is that the homeowners insurance policies were really kind of coalescing into the top 5 insurance companies in the state. That the smaller insurance companies started to pull back the number of policies that they were writing in the state. And what that told us was that if any one of those 5 insurance companies, the ones that had the biggest market share, if they also started to pull back in the state, it was going to mean that we had the potential to have availability problems in Colorado, and people wouldn't have any place to go. So the FAIR Plans have been developed. Really, most of them were developed back in the 70s into the 80s. We're the first state to stand up a FAIR Plan in about 40 years. But we knew that we didn't want to be in the situation where we had a crisis on our hand, where we had even pockets of availability problems, but certainly we didn't want to be in a place where we had widespread availability problems and we were just starting the conversation about standing up a FAIR Plan. Mm-hmm. So we got that bill passed in 2023 in order to try and get ahead of the problem that we saw potentially coming our way. So that was the development of the FAIR Plan, Karam. And I forgot the second question. What was the second question?
It's just like, what are some of the other kind of strategies or approaches for improving availability and affordability that the division's thinking through?
So let's talk about the affordability piece. We held a number of town halls virtually, really kind of starting that last fall. We took a break during session, but then we've kicked them back up. over the summer, and we're gonna head out in October, and we're gonna start doing those in person. Those that I just touched on all been virtually, but we're gonna do a series of town halls around the state. One of the things that we've talked about on the affordability front is that there might be opportunities to use the amount of hail that we have coming through our state to our advantage.
Hmm.
What I mean by that, so going back to what really the problem that hail is causing in the state. Hail takes out roofs. So you've got to figure out how to deal with that, the fact that hail comes through and we have to replace roofs after every storm. But we know how to do that, right? That we know that the science the technology has progressed far enough that we know that there are hail resistant types of roofing out there. So what we've discussed on a number of occasions during these town halls is whether there's an opportunity for us to use the fact that insurance companies are replacing roofs after every storm, like the storm in Central Park earlier this summer, and help people afford the difference between the standard roof that the insurance company is going to put on to replace their roof, and help them afford the ability to actually go with the hail fortified roof, to replace the roof with hail fortified roof, because that'll have multiple impacts on the market, right? It'll have the impact for the individual homeowner, because a number of insurance companies out there actually give discounts if you have a hail fortified roof on your home. But then that'll also have a systemic impact across the board from a claims perspective, because all of those roofs that are fortified will start to be taken out of the mix every time. Claims from those roofs will be taken out of the mix every time a big hailstorm comes through. So that'll have kind of long lasting impacts too. So we've talked about that. And I do think that I'm very hopeful that if we can get something along those lines up and running, of course, we got to figure out the way to pay for it. But if we can get something along those lines up and running, we can have a meaningful impact. We've also just talked about generally ways to bring, like I touched on before, incentivize insurance companies in whatever ways that we can to write throughout the state, and in more areas in the state than they are now. Right? We want to build more competition into our market. So what are the ways that we can do that? We've had a very open door to the insurance industry itself to bring us whatever ideas that they wanted to in order to increase competition around the state. Unfortunately, they haven't really taken us up on that so far. So what is typically the case when that happens is we come up with our own ideas, and then the insurance companies decide whether they like them or not. So we're still in, I think, the developmental stage, Grom, on some of those ideas, but we are working hard to find solutions.
Can you tell us what some of the division's priorities are for the next 1 to 3 years or so?
So we're doing a lot of work on the homeowners insurance front, and it's not just we're talking mostly about everything that we've talked about really up to this point is really focused on single family homes. The commercial market, where condos and townhomes are insured through HOAs just in general, there's going to be a ton of work there too. We've got a bill passed, or helped get a bill passed last session, to really study that market and figure out what are the solutions that we can bring forward to help people in the HOA market. Because some of the increases that have occurred over the last year and a half to 2 years are really just kind of mind blowing. It's not infrequent that I would get a phone call that a HOA was getting an increase, a premium increase of 100%, 200%, maybe even 300%. So we had to find, again, ways to bring more capital, more competition to that market. And that study is underway. We've had a number of stakeholder meetings to talk through that with consumers and the industry as well. So it's, I think, a key focus over the next year to 3 years for us will be the homeowners insurance market. And obviously, another key area of focus throughout this entire administration has been in the health insurance market. And we want to make sure that we are continuing to implement successfully the big programs that we've been able to get through on that front. The Omni Salute program to provide coverage for undocumented Coloradans, the Colorado option to reduce costs, the reinsurance program to help people save money on healthcare. So all of those things will be a key priority to make sure that we're continuing to be successful on those fronts too.
And can you leave us with why this work is important for Colorado's future?
So I think it's important for Colorado's future, though. Let's just talk about the homeowners front for a minute, right? Your home it's the old cliche, but your home is your castle. But it's more important than that. It's a much bigger deal than that, right? It's where you make memories. It's where you raise families. And the fear that is out there right now about people potentially losing their homes because their homeowners insurance costs have gone up too much, or they've lost the ability to even find an insurance company that will write their coverage, is palpable, and it's real. So we got to help people deal with that. We have to help them find ways to make sure that they can find coverage, right at its very core. That's the most important thing. But then we have to figure out how we can make it more affordable for them too. So that's going to be, going back to your last question, Emily, that's going to be our focus because of how vitally important it is for the people of Colorado.
Thank you, Commissioner Conway, for your time and the work that you all are doing at the division. And that line is going to resonate with me. Your home is your castle, and the work you all are doing and communities are doing across Colorado is going to be super important to protecting them. Really quick, just a quick plug. CHI is wrapping up a 2-part report actually on this work, set to come out this October, this fall, which will feature really a great analysis and background on key issues at that heart of insurance availability, wildfires, and their impact on health, and really some key considerations we heard from a variety of stakeholders, folks in insurance, researchers, wildfire experts, health people, to ensure that our communities are prepared and they have what they need in the face of more frequent wildfires and natural disasters. So thank you again for your time, Commissioner Conway. We appreciate you, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you, folks. Take care.